Well, thank you, Eric. And actually, I want to start by saying how inspired I was by David's project. Just listening, I came in at the end, David, and just listened to Jana, and it just filled my heart to hear what you're doing and what's going on, and uh, the way story can bring us together. And that's a little bit of what I am hoping to attempt today is bringing story into this archetypal image of the labyrinth, of bringing those two things together. So this is a little bit of an exploration on my part. Um, I wanted to start uh, with seeing just anecdotally, if there were many of you who have walked a physical labyrinth. Those of you with your cameras on, can you let me know if you've walked a physical labyrinth? Great, great. And then how about, has anyone worked with a virtual labyrinth the way we will today? Ah, something new. Okay. Um, so yes, it is to walk a physical labyrinth is quite wonderful. Uh, to walk a virtual labyrinth allows us to do as David has done, cross the world and be with many, many people at the same time in a different way. So to kind of get us uh, thinking about story and labyrinth in kind of a intuitive way, let's say, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to think about maybe a folktale character or a fairy tale character that pops into your mind and has a characteristic or a skill that you need right now. Let's just take a moment to think about that sort of thing. A folktale character who has a characteristic, a strength, or a skill that you need right now. And I'm going to go back to gallery view for a moment and ask if anyone would like to share one sentence, their character and the strength or skill from their folktale. Or you could put it in the chat, of course. Anyone feeling so moved? Jean, do I see your hand? Please unmute yourself and share with us.
Yes. Thank you, Maria. I was thinking of the innkeeper's wise daughter who knows how to solve difficult riddles and has that wisdom and knowledge of how to move forward. And I think Maya had her hand up also.
Maya?
Here I am. I'm working on an ancient myth. So this popped up for me. The myth of Alien, the artist, and he is able to create amazing artistic beauty and also receives the gift of true love from Aphrodite.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff the Bard, did I see your hand go up at one point? No. Okay. Great. Well, thank you. That's kind of a way of starting us off. So let me tell you what I would like to try today, kind of as an introduction to our time together. Um, as Eric mentioned, I have been interested in labyrinths for a very long time, and I I have found that the archetype just spoke to me. I couldn't for a long time explain why. I could only know that something spoke to me of the way I felt life unfolded and the twists and turns, sometimes coming back to the same sort of experience or the same problem that needed to be resolved, maybe in a slightly different way, but still it was this, going back and forth and back and forth. And then there were moments when there was clarity, might call that the center of the labyrinth. And then moments when coming out, uh, I felt renewed and refreshed. All those kind of feelings with this archetypal image. And the first time I actually walked a physical labyrinth was a large canvas, painted canvas of the image that's in Chartres Cathedral in France. And I was shocked. I was amazed at kind of all the images and associations that bubbled up while I was walking through. Uh, Not thinking, but just kind of allowing my mind to wander, and all sorts of things came up. And like the resilience and the strength that I felt in looking at the archetypal image, my mind wandered and insights came up. And then I reached the center, and there was a gratitude for all those insights. And then I found myself walking out refreshed and renewed. And then I was hooked. Then I had to do as many labyrinths as I could possibly find. But I couldn't find a lot because, this is mostly an image that we see, not physical labyrinths. Then, fortunately, I came upon a virtual practice with the labyrinth, which is what we'll do today, a virtual walking the path, either with our finger or if you want to use pens and colored, use different colors that speak to you or play or, um, you know, and that's another way of playing with the labyrinth, allowing the labyrinth to kind of reveal deeper thoughts and insights and ideas that may not come up in your rational mind, when you sit down and say, okay, I got to think about this problem. Sometimes you need to go deeper, and the labyrinth can be used to unlock that. So, as a storyteller, and I've been telling stories for a long time as well, um, I began to think about, well, can you connect story and labyrinth? Can you put the two together somehow? And so I started looking, all different kinds of stories. There are a lot of journey stories, quest stories, uh, in many different cultures. But I found that what I was really searching for was something else. The most popular um, labyrinth myth in Western culture, Eric reminded me of this when we were working on the technicalities of today. Um, the most prominent one is the Theseus and the Minotaur. And I have to be honest that myth did not speak to me. Uh, I was looking for like an inner quest, some sort of inner revelation. And I came upon an Armenian tale that immediately I fell in love with. So, um, what I'd like to propose for our time together is to tell this Armenian folktale, fairy tale. It's quite long, I have to warn you, but that will give us a way of kind of getting lost in it and all the twists and turns in it. And then after we share the story, being in the story, then using the labyrinth image, we will have some time. I'll play some background music, which you can turn off if if you prefer to, whatever. But anyway, we'll have about 15 minutes to trace the labyrinth path and see what comes up. No expectations. The things from the story, other associations, everything is welcome. Just see what happens as you trace the path of the labyrinth. And after that time alone, solo with the labyrinth, for those of us with cameras on, there'll be 10 minutes where we can have breakout rooms and go deeper into what happened during those 15 minutes. And for those of us who choose not to have our cameras on, those 10 minutes can be 10 minutes of further reflection, uh, journaling, drawing, however you want, silence, just to be, whatever allows you to just kind of be with what has happened with story and labyrinth. And then, of course, we'll come back together in our story room here, and we will hopefully share what we've learned, what we've explored. So that was my plan, this exploration of using the labyrinth and story together. Is that clear? Do we have any questions? Either raise hand or in the chat for what I hope the rest of our time will be together. Seeing none. Okay. So, as I said, this is a long story, so you want to make sure you're comfortable and, ready for sitting. And how about if we take some moments to just kind of breathe together to get ourselves ready for this story? With our feet planted, our backs comfortable, a breath in and a breath out. Another one. And out. One more. And out. A story from Armenia. There was once a king and a queen who had all that they needed, but one thing that they wanted they did not have, and that was a child. And this distressed them both. One day, the king, to forget his troubles, decided to go hunting. And as he was tracking an animal, he came upon a, a mother serpent surrounding her many babies on a warm rock. And he looked down at this mother snake with all her children, and he raised his fist to the heavens and said, "How is it that this creature has all these children and I have none. Well, after that, in 9 months' time, the queen did bear a child, but it was no ordinary child. The child was half serpent and half human. And in their horror and shame at this, they felt that they could not get rid of the child because it was royal, but they wanted to hide it away. They called it the dragon child, and they had it thrown down a dark, dry well where the dragon child could not get out and had only the sun when it passed overhead as any kind of friend. And servants would come and lower basins of milk for the dragon child. And everyone was afraid. As time went on and the dragon child grew not only in size, but in anger, the dragon child demanded meat. So animal meat was brought, sheep, goats, but that is not what the dragon child wanted. The dragon child wanted human meat. And so young maidens were lowered down into that dry well, and they never came out again. Now, in time, you you can imagine how the noblemen first losing daughters and then landowners losing daughters and the common people losing daughters. Terror was all over this country. In this country, there was a shepherd, and he had a daughter named Anahid. And Anahid's mother had died when she was very young. Wanting a mother for his daughter, the shepherd had married a widow who also had a daughter around Anahid's age. And this widow favored her daughter over Anahid. And when they knew that one of these two young girls were going to have to be given to the dragon child, the parents began to argue over which one would go. And although Anahid's father argued and argued for her, eventually he gave in to his new wife and said that it was Anahid who would go to the dragon child. Well, Anahid, of course, was terrified. What could she do? This was her fate. One night, Anahid had a dream. And in the dream, a woman's voice said to her, "My child, do not worry. This is what you must do. Have a bull hide brought, and you have it sewn over you, knife underneath, and a pouch filled with milk. And when you are lowered into the place where the dragon child is, the dragon child will tell you to shed your skin, but you tell the dragon child, shed your skin. And do that as many times as necessary until all the dragon child's skins are shed. And then you will see, all will be well." Such a strange dream. But when Anahid awoke, she went to her father to tell her about this dream. And in his wanting to help his child, he went and secured all that the dream had spoken of. And when the day came for Anahi to go to the dragon child, he brought her there himself and lowered her down into that dry well. Well, sure enough, the dragon child reared itself up and said, "Shed your skin." Shed your skin. No one had ever spoken to the dragon child like that, and in shock, the dragon child shed his skin. But then he tried again. "Shed your skin." Shed your skin. Again and again, Anahid told the dragon child to shed his skin until before her was a naked man, shivering. And only then did she take the knife and cut herself loose from the bull hide and took the pouch of milk and bathed the dragon child in that milk. And he was totally restored and refreshed as a human being. And then the two young people stood and looked into each other's eyes, and they held hands, and they realized that they were soulmates. Moments later, Anahid's father looked down the well to see what had happened and saw two young faces looking up at him. "Call the king and queen," yelled the prince, and of course that was done. And oh, the joy and celebration when the king and queen saw that their son had been restored. And well, of course there was a feast, and of course there was a wedding. Some say it went for 7 days and 7 nights. But our story does not end there. After all that celebration, news came that an invader threatened that country. And the dragon child knew he had to go and defend his land. And so he went to his mother and he said, "Do not let my Anahid go home with her stepmother, for her stepmother does not want the best for her." And the queen agreed. Well, sure enough, the stepmother came and asked for Anahid to go home with her, and the queen refused. But the stepmother was clever. She sent Anahid's father. And Anahid, so grateful for all her father had done for her, she went with him. And she went home, and after a time, the shepherd had to go off, and the stepmother said, "Oh, it is such a hot day. Let us go to the sea and bathe." And so the stepmother and the stepsister and Anahid went to the beach and went into the waves to refresh themselves. But you know, that stepmother began to push Anahid into the current, further and further off, so that she could not swim to shore. She got caught in the current, and when the stepmother felt that there was no way that Anahid could make it back to the beach, she and her daughter swam back and left Anahid to the waves. Fortunately, an empty barrel, an empty cask floated by, and Anahid was able to grab onto it and keep her head above water. And she allowed the waves to take her. Who knows how long she bobbed along in the water, further and further away from everything she knew. It was a long time. But eventually, she saw another beach, and she allowed the waves to take her there. And when she made it to that beach, she fell upon the sand to rest. And then she realized she needed to find some covering, leaves, something, and she needed fresh water. And so she walked away from the beach. She found some foliage to put around herself, and she found a stream of fresh water, and she came upon a hut. And she thought, a hut must mean another person. I'll sit here and wait for that person to come back. And so she sat down by the hut, but she waited all day and no one came. Only when the sun went lower beyond the horizon did the door to the hut open, and out came a man with matted hair and a scruffy beard. And he took one look at Anahid and he said, "Who are you? What are you? Are you a demon?" "No, I'm a person like yourself." "Tell me your story." And so Anahid did. She told this man everything that had happened to her. And then he told his story. How he called himself the Sun Child. How he had grown up a rich landowner's son, allowed to do whatever he wanted. And his favorite thing to do was to go hunting. And one day, while he was hunting, he hadn't caught anything. And this made him angry. And he noticed that the sun was beginning to lower. And this brought a kind of madness over him because he did not want to go home empty-handed. And as the sun kept lowering, he got angrier and angrier, and at one point looked up at the sun and said, "I curse you! Stop in the sky! Allow me enough day to capture something!" And with that, he felt a great slap across his face and heard a voice that said, "You dare curse my son? Then I curse you. And you do not dare from this day forward to show your face to the sun, for if you do, it will be the end of you." And with that, the Sun Child had built this hut and lived there and hidden all day to not let the sun's rays touch him for fear of what might happen. Well, two young people in a desperate circumstance decided to partner and help each other. And that partnership grew to something more. They became like husband and wife. And after a time, well, Anahid was with child. Now what to do? For this was not a place to bring a child into the world. And so the Sun Child came up with a strategy. He said, "I will bring you to the home of my parents, and you will explain to them that you are my partner and you are bearing their grandson. They will welcome you and they will care for you. And in this way, the child will be born in good circumstances." And Anahid, not having another idea, another plan, agreed. And so, by cover of darkness, Sunchild brought Anahid to where his parents' manor house was. And then he left to go back to his hut. And when the sun rose, Anahid knocked on the door and explained to the Sunchild's parents who she was. And they were so pleased to think that their child was still alive that they did welcome Anahid, and they cared for her. And soon the child was born. And as the days went by and Anahit cared for the child, at night she would hold the child in her arms and she would walk to the window and sing lullabies to it. One night, while she was doing this, she heard a voice echo back to her. She knew that voice. It was the Sunchild who had dared to leave the hut and come and sing and be with Anahid and their child in the only way he felt he could. But the parents heard the singing as well. And the next morning, they accused Anahid of having a lover and of having lied to them. No, 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 this is your son. He comes to be with me and our child. We shall see about that. If he comes again, we shall see. Some time did go by, and on another night when Anahid was singing a lullaby to their child, she heard the echo of the Sunchild singing back. And immediately the parents sent servants rushing out of the house, and they grabbed the Sunchild and they dragged him into the house. And when they realized that it was their son, well, they were overjoyed, and they would not let him go. They would not believe what he said about the son's curse. He begged them, Anahid begged them, but they would not let him go. And so, when the sun came up over the horizon and those first rays came upon the Sunchild, he dropped to the floor as if dead. But he wasn't dead. He was breathing. He was neither alive nor dead. He just lay there. And what could they do? They did not know what to do except to watch by him as he lay in a bed breathing. This went on for some time. And then, one night, the Sunchild's mother had a dream and heard a voice. And the voice said, if you want to drop the curse on your son, have iron shoes made and walk with those iron shoes until they wear off. Then you will come to a place where you can beg for your child. And the next morning, the Sunchild's mother did not hesitate. She had iron shoes made, and she began to walk and walk and walk. Oh, so far, through so many countries, many different languages, many different kinds of people. She walked and walked to what seemed to be the end of the earth. And when she had come to what seemed to be the end of the earth, those iron shoes fell off. And she saw that she was in front of a huge palace. It was blindingly bright. And she stepped inside, and there were alcoves on either side of this long hallway, and seemingly bright lights within the alcoves. And she kept walking until she came to a great pool of water. And beyond the pool of water was a throne of opal and pearl. And sitting on that throne was a beautiful woman. And the Sunchild's mother made her way to that throne, and she bowed down, and she put her head down, and she heard the woman say, no human has ever come so far, and so I know who you are. Oh, please, please lift the curse on my son. He has suffered enough, and now he has a child that he must bring up. Oh, please, mother, to Mother, please lift the curse, I beg you. The son's mother was moved, and after a few moments she said, take this bottle, this vial, and hide behind the pillar behind me. Do not show your face, for my son will be home soon. And when he comes home, if he sees you or you see him, you will be burnt beyond belief. But he will come and he will refresh himself in this pool. And after he has swum in the pool and regained his strength, he will come to me for me to suckle him, to give him strength for tomorrow's work. Only then come from behind the pillar and fill the bottle with the water that the sun has bathed in. Then go home and pour it over your son, and the curse will be lifted. Well, the sun-child's mother did everything as she was told, and she walked all the way back home. And when she got home, she poured the water over her son, and his eyes opened, and he was revived. And oh, the celebration and the feasting at this miracle. Word spread far and wide about this miracle of what had happened, reaching the ears even of the dragon child. For the dragon child had come back from successfully taking care of that invader and found that his Anahid was gone. His soulmate, he searched high and low, but could not find her. Maybe he thought, if I learn about this miracle, it will help me find my Anahid. And so he traveled to where the sun-child lived. And the two men met, and they spoke to each other and became friends immediately. And the sun-child said, you must come and sup with us tonight. We will have a feast and welcome you. And so, that night at dinner, Anahid was pouring wine into everyone's goblets, and she poured wine into the dragon child's goblet, and he looked up at her, and she looked down at him, and they recognized each other. What to do? Anahid fled the room, and in that moment, the dragon child and the sun child realized who Anahid was. But it was for her to make the choice which one she would stay with. And so the two men came up with a strategy, which was that they would all go walking together, and they would give Anahid salty food, so salty that she would need to call for a drink. And whoever she called must be the one that she preferred. And then they would all know. And so, not telling Anahid the plan, of course, on another day, Anahid with the child and the dragon child and the sun child all went walking. And sure enough, after eating some food, Anahid became very thirsty. And first she called for the sun child, and he came running with water. But when she saw his face, she understood what had been planned. And she called the dragon child too. And the two stood before her. And she said, sun child, take our child and raise our child well. But I am the bride of the dragon child, and he is my soulmate, and I must go with him. And so she did. And thus ends our tale. a beautiful, long, twisty tail. So I see you need to take a breath, I think. And so now I'd like to invite you to allow the labyrinth to bring up whatever images, expectations, whatever comes up can be about the story or not, you know? There's no expectations here as to what may arise while we walk the labyrinth virtually. And so I see a few of us have our cameras on. And for those who have their cameras on, would anyone else like to go into a breakout room? Give you a moment to choose.
Maria,
Yes.
I know this is a very foolish idea, but could you or someone give a summary of the story you just told?
Ah, certainly I could give a
I
summary.
apologize for asking for such a thing.
Uh, so there's a dragon child, a child that is born part serpent, part human,
Hmm.
and a young woman who hears in a dream how to survive being brought to the dragon child as meat.
Hmm.
The dream tells her to be clothed in a bull hide
Hmm.
with a knife underneath and a pouch of milk to bathe the dragon child.
Hmm.
And when the dragon child has shed all its skins, as snakes do shed their skin,
Hmm.
uh, he is restored to his human self.
Hmm.
And the two, the dragon child and Anahid, realize that they were meant for each other, that they're soulmates.
Mhm.
And there's a great celebration and a wedding. And then, however, the dragon child must go off to defend his country.
Hmm.
And Anahid goes home to her family, but her stepmother is not so thrilled to have her home
Hmm.
and wants to be rid of her
Mhm.
and pushes her into the waves, hoping that that will be rid of her.
Hmm.
But fortunately, she finds an empty barrel to hold on to and keep herself out of the, above the waves. And
Mhm.
she drifts and drifts and drifts to another place.
Hmm.
And when she gets to that other place, she meets another person, the
Hmm.
sun child. And his story is that he cursed the sun. And because he cursed the sun in kind of madness because he wanted to keep hunting,
Hmm.
the sun's mother curses him.
Hmm.
And now he can't show his face to the light of day,
Hmm.
or else he doesn't know what will happen.
Mhm.
And so Anahid and the sun child decide to help each other. And they do. They become like husband and wife, and she becomes pregnant.
Hmm.
And then, in order to have the child uh, be born in a better place than a hut,
Hmm.
uh, the sun child brings her to his parents and they accept her.
Hmm.
And so she's there, and the child is born, and she's taking care of the child. And the sun child comes the only way he feels he can by night, and he sings lullabies with Anahid. But her parents, his parents, I'm sorry, his parents believe that Anahid has tricked them, that she has a lover, that she has not borne their grandchild. And so they seize the sun child the next time he comes. And although he tells them that he has to go back to the hut, they don't believe him. And sure enough, when the sun's rays touch him, the curse is fulfilled and he falls into a deep slumber, a comatose state.
Mm-hmm.
And there he is. He's not alive. He's not dead. And there they all are, and they don't know what to do.
Hmm.
But his mother hears a voice, once again, another voice.
Hmm.
And the voice tells her what she needs to do to lift the curse,
Hmm.
to have made a pair of iron shoes, and to have those iron shoes, wear them until they wear out,
Mm-hmm.
and then she can ask for the curse to be lifted. And so she does.
Hmm.
And mother to mother, she pleads with the son's mother,
Hmm.
and the son's mother agrees and tells her what she needs to do.
Hmm.
So she goes back and she lifts the curse by pouring water over her son, and there's a great celebration. But the dragon child has come back from defending his country, and he doesn't find his soulmate, and he goes searching for her, and he hasn't found her, and he hears of this miracle, and he thinks, oh, maybe there's something there that will help me. So he goes to where the sun child lives, and the two men become friends, not knowing that they are sharing, in a way, Anahid.
Hmm.
And that night at a feast, Dragon Child and Anahid recognize each other, but now what to do? And they decide that it's really Anahid's decision who she will go with.
Hmm.
But to do that, they don't want to necessarily confront her and say, okay, pick which one.
Hmm.
Instead, they come up with a plan, which is to feed her salty meat and see who she'll ask for a drink.
Hmm.
And then that would show them who she prefers,
Mm-hmm.
which is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But Anahid, in asking for a drink, realizes what they were trying to do, that they were trying to see who she would prefer, and makes the decision that the sun child will bring up their child, but she will go with the dragon child because he is her soulmate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
So lots of twists and turns, which is what, of course, are in Labyrinth images. So, oh, somebody has put it in the chat. The Dragon Child, Sun Child, Armenian tale. And lots of times, let me say that this story is stopped after the Dragon Child. There, it sometimes does not go on to the second part with the Sun Child, but I prefer the one that's longer. So I am looking at the time, and I'd like to give people a chance to explore the uh, the labyrinth with some music. And are we ready for some music and the labyrinth story? Hello, Heather. um, so I'm. Please be patient with me as I try the technology. I'm going to share my screen and play some music. I will. Uh, please put in the chat if it's either too loud or not, and I will try to adjust.
Okay, is everybody clear on how to get the labyrinth image? Again, I'll put the link in chat for people who've come in.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, Niana.
This was such a beautiful story. What I'm not clear on the instructions for what we're doing in the chat room.
Okay.
How it
So
relates to
first, no, first we're going to, hopefully, I'm going to play some music, Niana, as background. And do you have a labyrinth image? Do you have a printout of the labyrinth image? Yeah. So you can use your finger to go along the path. You can use colored pencils if you'd like to express your emotions with color, pencil, um, doodle along the way. But we're going to walk the labyrinth path and allow whatever images or associations or thoughts to just kind of bubble up as we're going along the labyrinth path.
Are we thinking
And
about the story you told as we follow the?
you can think about the story, but anything that comes up is fine. You know, the story is a jumping off point,
Mhm.
and there may be things that happen in the story that remind you of something. You may go in a totally different direction, you know, thinking about other stories, you know. It's totally open. All is welcome.
Hmm.
So just allow, you know, this is an intuitive experience rather than a thinking experience, really, you know. Allow whatever bubbles up to come.
Maya?
And how much time will we get for this labyrinth walk?
So I have roughly 15 minutes of music, but seeing the that we're almost at 11 o'clock,
Well,
we
we have
may
another,
shorten that a little bit.
we have another half an hour.
Yes. So we'll kind of see, you know, I want to give everyone time. That was a long story. So I want to give everyone time to kind of be with the labyrinth as well.
And everyone's clear on how to find the labyrinth? You click the link in the chat, and then you go down 10 lines and you click either JPEG or PDF. Okay?
Okay. So
If you
let
have any
me,
questions, send me a message. Okay?
okay, be patient as I kind of get this all set up, please.
Well, it's all set up. Oh,
Oh, well, almost,
you're
but I
going
have
to,
to make
yeah, that,
sure, I have to make sure that I'm sharing with the right sound.
and are you bringing the labyrinth image?
I have it up. Can we not see it?
No, we
I'll
don't
try it
see the
again.
labyrinth image yet.
Okay. I'll try it again. How's that?
No,
No?
no.
I did just what you said, and
You did it yesterday.
I know, that's what I mean. It's up on my screen.
Okay, well, it's not essential. Did you stop it, Maria?
No, I put the image up as we did yesterday, but you
No,
still don't see it.
no, no, we don't have leave it, it's
Sorry.
okay. Just let it be.
Okay. I hope you all enjoyed that virtual walk, very calming virtual walk. What I had planned was that those of us with screens on would go for a few moments into a breakout room in order to talk about the experience of connecting the story and Labyrinth or whatever came up. I'm thinking since I have that we have 15 minutes that maybe we do that and then we'll have 5 minutes to close up. 10 minutes in a breakout room and 5 minutes for people to share or to share together. Maybe we should make the breakout rooms a little shorter. What do you think, Eric?
I'm unmuted. I'm wondering if we can just share here
For the next few minutes.
for the next 14 minutes.
Okay. That might make more sense. So I'll open it up and invite whoever would like to share what the experience of story and Labyrinth together, or what came up for you. You can use the chat as well, of course. I'm very curious. This is an experiment for me to bring story and Labyrinth together. So I'm curious about all kinds of associations. And Diana, I see your hand.
Hi, thank you so much. I also did a workshop today that was experimental. I had never done before, so I understand how creative and scary this can be because you don't know. I have looked at labyrinths before. I've walked a few, but this is a new idea for me to combine the two. And I found in the breakout time that I was able to think about the labyrinth and move my finger and imagine my own story. And then your story was beautiful, and I saw how it had woven in different directions, but I don't see quite how they go together.
Ah. Well,
I know
that's helpful feedback. Yeah.
piece that I think I'm still in the either or. And so I'm curious how to do that connection.
Thank you, Diana. Sometimes I think it's so deep that it's hard to express the connections. David, I see your hand.
So I went off and printed the labyrinth image and took a pen, and then I attempted to retell the story, and I realized, even though you had summarized it afterwards, that I drifted in some places. It's quite a dreamlike experience for me. But what curiously happened is I found that as I was following the labyrinth, every time I came to a block, it seemed to be a place in the story where there was also a block, where things couldn't proceed because, for example, the dragon child went off to war,
Yes.
or where there was some kind of obstacle. So there was a curious relationship. I haven't done labyrinth work before, so I haven't got an idea of how it would go normally. But for me, that kind of was curious, and a curious observation. The other thing that went on for me was just certain images from the story, certain symbols from the story were very prominent for me. Maybe this isn't so closely related to the labyrinth, but for example, a couple of them were familiar from other stories. I love the image of the serpent child, the dragon child, being wrapped in layers and layers of skin that needed to be cut away. There's also, I think, I'm not sure where it comes from, but there's a British story that's quite similar. And that I found that a very powerful imagery that she was asking, Anait was asking him to shed his skin, and they were both shedding those skins together, and that link. And then there's another very familiar image from a Lithuanian story I tell of the iron shoes that needed to be worn out, going to the end of the world. So I love those kind of powerful images. So yeah, there were lots of twists and turns, but that was my kind of experience of it.
Thank you, David. And I think that that's one of the reasons the story speaks to me is that it has these twists and turns that you know resonate in either stories we know or things that have happened to us in life. Yeah. Mona.
Hi, Maria. It was
Hi,
a good
Mona.
story, though it was long, but I enjoyed it. There were lots of twists and turns, and I never knew what would be the ending. And after listening to the story, it was quite heavy because I never expected what the end that was there. And when I was doing the labyrinth, I never did it before. I somehow, I know there was a visual image of, I was walking in between the wall made of sands. And, I asked myself why I'm doing this. I stopped myself. I zoomed in the image and I started doing it again. And then there was an obstruction. I came back from where I started. Then I found that there was a way from left to go. And then I covered almost all the places. And so, how I connect your story with, how I was moving was that whenever you're stuck at a particular place, you need to come out of it. You have to find a way so that you can find another way of discovering something new about what is life has to offer to you. And like what happened with the character, like when she had no other choice, she was given to the dragon child and then she figured out a solution with her father and she came out from there. And then again there was a roadblock for her when her husband left and what happened, what mother, like her stepmother did to her. And so she again came back from it. She figured out a way and there was a new beginning in her life and she found the new man, and then she had a child and how to raise. It was a difficulty, and again she figured out some way. So I felt like I could feel that it is kind of a life that moves around these figure, and you have to just figure out if you're stuck somewhere, you have to find a new what's something new for you ahead.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you. And I resonate with what you say so much with the archetypal image, I think is a representation of how we journey through life with meeting roadblocks, as even as David said, and then there are ways that we have to figure out how to get beyond it. Thank you. Maya.
I had a very interesting experience and received again gifts from the labyrinth. For me, the ending of the story was heavy too. And as I walked the labyrinth with my finger, I just felt that I always feel with labyrinths that it doesn't take me linearly to the middle. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that I come closer to the center and further, and all these twists and turns. And I thought about my own life with so many twists and turns. And then there was a very amazing moment when I reached the center. I realized that it's a little bit similar to what you said, Mona, that You just need to go. Don't get stuck. Just go and you will get to the middle. And for me, the middle appeared this time as the cradle of the universe, like maybe also the sounds from the music. I don't know. I felt also in a boat, like as if it was a cradle. And it was a totally calming moment. And I felt that you will get there anyway. Just don't get stuck. Just move and move and move. And one image came from the story. It was really powerful. The son's mother, who is breastfeeding the son to give him power to shine on the whole world. I'm just amazed by that female power. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Jean.
Well, Maria, you had given us permission to go wherever we wished with this. And so I did find myself trying to go through the story and through the labyrinth, and then I would just stop whenever an image would bring up another image for me. I think the first one was when the dragon child was thrown into that dry well and would look up, and the sun was its only friend. And that took me, actually, David, a story I've heard you tell of the young man whose mother, before she died, said, "Never walk with evil." But he'd forgotten that. And so he's taken, well, it's a long story, but the image took me to where he has been thrown into a well and looks up and only can see the moon there. That's, you know, so there were various times like that where I would continue through the story, and yes, the shedding of the skins, and I thought of the Irish tale, the fairy tale, where you must hold on tightly no matter what happens as each of the layers comes off. So again, that image, well, and it would continue for me in that way, where as I went through the labyrinth, I gave myself permission to say, all right, this is where I am. I don't have to get to the center, nor do I need to get to the end. I'm just going to be where I am. And so I thank you for that.
Thank you, Jean. And that, of course, relates to what Maya said about it not being literal. That again, that's one of the things that I love about a labyrinth is that it's not a linear exploration. It weaves in and out and takes us to surprising places. So thank you. Melody.
Uh, for me, it was very calming just to follow the path up and down, up and down. And that just helped me to let my thoughts flow and not try to explore and try to find stuff out. But it helped that stuff just came up from the story, like water and the absence of water, or the loneliness in the places in the story, like the woman on the sea, the child in the well, or the other child in the hut on the island, or the responsibilities of the parents, how they acted against reason. Sometimes, like the sun child's parents, no, you have to stay, and then stuff happens again. And so it was like something like a natural texture from the story that I was able to allow to come up, and that was a very nice experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. And that's again, it's not linear thinking. It's a way of just kind of exploring that's more intuitive. That's how I would characterize it, which I think can be very calming, and kind of help you get to a place, a realization with without struggling, you know, in quite a rational way.
Okay, we need to close the session in a couple of
Yep.
minutes. I want to say that to me, the center of the labyrinth corresponded to the realization of who one's soulmate is, and that one is going to be with one's soulmate. And for me, aside from my wife, my soulmate is my work. And I resonate deeply with feeling connected with the work, and that being the center of my labyrinth.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you for all your help in not just the festival, but helping me with this workshop. Really, you do a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Very much. Okay, so does anyone want to say final words before we close this workshop?
One word that you're taking away with you. You want to turn off your mute and just say a word.
Possibilities.
Inspiration.
Keep moving.
Trust. Trust.
It was good.
Stop and go.
Thank you all. Thank you
Right.
all for being here
Thank,
and exploring with
Thank
me.
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful.